She walked into the courtroom with a defiance that stunned everyone watching.
I'm my attorney. I need a military tribunal. This is a Satan synagogue. There's not a human in here. I am the only human in here.
Acting like everyone else in the room but her was in the wrong. She had convinced herself she could make the world believe her story. Her defense team built its case around one claim: self-defense. She was mentally unstable, they claimed. She feared for her life. She had no choice. Her lawyers were persuasive. The argument seemed plausible. But then something happened that would test every word of her testimony, and everything changed. What you're about to see is the moment Amanda Cook had to face evidence she never anticipated, evidence that would force the entire courtroom to question everything she said. Her roommate had sustained injuries that raised immediate questions for investigators. And what unfolded inside that North Naples home would send forensic experts, detectives, and prosecutors down a path no one could have predicted. And every detail you're about to see has been verified through court records, trial testimony, police reports, and medical examiner findings. If you've never heard this story before, prepare yourself, because what happened in Naples, Florida on July 3rd, 2019 will challenge everything you think you know about domestic violence, self-defense, and the science that investigators rely on when the truth isn't clear. Karen Divine Lady was 64 years old. She lived in the Imperial Gulf Estates in North Naples, a quiet, well-kept neighborhood where people knew their neighbors by name and actually meant it when they waved. Friends remembered her as quick-witted and humble, the type of woman who went out of her way for people without ever needing to be asked. Her daughter Jessica was her closest person in the world. They weren't just mother and daughter, they were best friends. Karen was the first call for everything: good news, bad news, everything in between. And Karen had this quality: if someone needed something, she found a way. She didn't overthink it, she just helped. That quality is exactly what opened her front door to Amanda Cook. Amanda needed a place to stay. Karen had a spare room. She opened her home without a second thought. She had no idea what she was letting in. The woman Karen let into her home wasn't someone with a clean record and a string of bad luck. Amanda Cook had a paper trail that stretched back years. And if anyone had looked closely enough, what they would have found should have kept her far away from anyone vulnerable. Amanda Cook had multiple restraining orders against her. One of them involved a Marco Island city councilman named Jared Grifoni. Cook had become completely fixated on him. She believed they were in a relationship. They were not. She showed up at his family's home. She left messages in his mailbox. She sent him constant emails and instant messages. She allegedly tried to pick up his children from school. Grifoni had to go to court just to make her stop. In 2016, she was arrested for domestic violence. In 2017, she violated a restraining order. Court records showed a history of involuntary psychiatric commitments. During a 2016 hearing, a psychiatrist named Dr. Damian McGovern testified about what Cook had told him. She believed she was an angel. She had hallucinations. She heard the voices of angels and demons. Her most recent run-in before the night, everything changed, came in April 2018. Cook called 911 and told dispatchers shots had been fired at the home of Grifoni's parents. She wasn't there. There were no shots. She invented an emergency from thin air and sent police to someone's front door. The people closest to Amanda weren't surprised by any of it. They'd been watching it build for years, and yet none of that history ever reached Karen Lady. She never saw what was coming. Just after 2 in the morning on July 4th, 2019, police received a 911 call. A mother was calling about her daughter, Amanda Cook. She had driven to the house in the early morning darkness, frantic, telling dispatchers that something terrible had happened. There had been an argument, she said, a fight between Amanda and her roommate, Karen Lady. Karen had tripped, fell over a speaker in the living room, hit her head, an accident. That was the story. When Collier County Sheriff's deputies arrived at the residence on Imperial Golf Course Boulevard, they found Karen Lady on the living room floor. They attempted CPR, but she was already gone. Outside, Amanda stood with her mother and repeated the same story. An argument, a fall, an accident. But the moment investigators stepped inside, that story started collapsing. The blood spatter patterns were wrong for a simple fall. The position of Karen's body was wrong, and sitting near her was an object that had absolutely no business being part of a tripping accident. A cast iron microphone stand, 9 pounds of solid metal, with something on its surface that Amanda Cook hadn't planned on anyone being able to read. Amanda was arrested before the sun came up. She was 35 years old, and she probably believed that her version of events could survive what came next. What the forensic team found on that microphone stand was about to change everything. Keep this next detail in mind, because it became the single most important thing the jury heard during the entire trial. Karen Lady's DNA was found on the base of the microphone stand, the part that makes direct contact when it's used as a weapon. Amanda Cook's fingerprint was found just above the base, right where someone would likely grip it to swing. Amanda's DNA was also on the top of the stand, both hands, fully accounted for. And then the medical examinations delivered the finding that destroyed the self-defense argument before it was even fully made. Karen Lady's injuries were not consistent with a single strike. The angles were different. The damage was spread across multiple points of impact. This was a sustained assault, deliberate enough to kill a 64-year-old woman with a pacemaker who had no weapon in her hand. The microphone stand itself was found away from Karen's body, not near the table where the defense would later claim the confrontation started, not in a position that made any sense for a single defensive swing. It had been moved, and the blood evidence confirmed the attack hadn't happened where Amanda said it did. Every piece of physical evidence told the same story, and it was nothing like the one Amanda was telling the police. So with all of that sitting in a forensics lab, what exactly did her defense team try to argue? They claimed Amanda wasn't the aggressor, she was the victim. At least that's the story her lawyers tried to sell, and they built a detailed case around it, specific enough that for a moment it almost sounded plausible. Amanda Cook's trial didn't begin until December 2025, more than 6 years after her arrest. During that time, there were repeated questions about her mental competency, hearings, evaluations, periods where she was ruled incompetent, then competent again. The case crawled forward at a grinding pace while Karen Lady's family waited for an answer. Her defense team used every one of those years, and when they finally laid it out in court, it came down to this. The night before the killing, Karen had seen Amanda wearing a hijab, a head covering worn by Muslim women. That apparently created tension between them. The next morning, on July 3rd, Amanda moved a picture frame on the wall. An argument erupted. Amanda insulted Karen. Karen pushed her on the chest. Then, the defense claimed Karen placed both hands on a nearby table and stared at a kitchen knife. She threatened to kill Amanda. Faced with what she believed was imminent death, Amanda grabbed the microphone stand, swung it, struck Karen in the head once, and did what she had to do to survive. Her lawyers argued she had no choice, that she was a frightened woman protecting herself from someone who wanted her dead. It was a detailed story, designed to make Amanda Cook sound like the real victim in that room. But it collapsed the moment the medical examiner took the stand during the trial in December 2025. Collier County Deputy Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Borges testified about Karen Lady's injuries. He walked the jury through the severity of the trauma, the force required. The defense claimed Amanda swung once to save her life. Dr. Borges testified that it was impossible. The evidence showed repeated strikes from different angles. Cross-examination challenged this. Could one powerful swing cause multiple fractures? The answer was no. The physics didn't support it. Forensic experts testified about the physical evidence collected at the scene. DNA analysis, fingerprint identification, the location and positioning of key items recovered during the investigation. Every piece of evidence contradicted the defense narrative. The photographs, the measurements, the forensic reconstructions. The jury saw everything. They saw exactly what happened in that living room. And it wasn't self-defense. After 4 days of testimony, the jury deliberated. On December 12th, 2025, they returned with their verdict: guilty, second-degree murder. Amanda Cook showed no visible reaction. She sat quietly as the verdict was read, the same calm demeanor she'd maintained throughout the trial. But inside, prosecutors believed she knew what was coming. Sentencing was scheduled for January 22nd, 2026. That day, Amanda Cook walked into the sentencing hearing with a smile, cheerful, almost playful. But the moment she was led into the room, pandemonium broke loose.
Sound my attorney. I need a military tribunal. This is a Satan synagogue. There's not a human in here. I am the only human in here. They murdered my husband. John F. Kennedy reincarnated. That's Shred Dudley. Here in the Collier County jailhouse within the last 72 hours. He has been reincarnated, and I am not going to stand for this. I was Marilyn Monroe in the 1950s. What do you think's going on, United States military?
The judge tried to quieten her, but was met with resistance.
Ms. Cook, you have a right to be here, ma'am. If you choose to act the way you're choosing, we will remove you.
You don't have any rights. You're a VA lady.
That's nice. But ma'am, I know you can behave yourself because you did it through the trial for 5 days. I know that you understand what's going on because you participated with Mr. Borges in your defense.
It was a 4-day Satan synagogue. That's what it was.
So thank you, ma'am. We're going to proceed with your sentencing today. You're here today, ma'am, because on December the 12th of 2025, a jury of your peers found you guilty of second-degree murder and also...
Why didn't you finish those words?
that you personally carried?
Mangled, reinvaded. I can finish those words.
Okay. Ms. Cook, are you going to sit here and allow us to go through the sentencing because you want to participate?
Eventually, Judge Foster decided he'd had enough and ordered her removed from the courtroom.
Do you wish me to go forward with your sentencing with you present, ma'am?
Allah Saifarai, the Most High Judge, the all-knowing one.
Okay.
Ask me.
Thank you. You can remove her.
Okay, come on, man.
Oh! Whoa! Whoa! They're busted! Get me out! We're coming in! Get me out! Stay right here! Oh yeah, we're coming in! Oh yeah!
The proceedings continued without her. The courtroom was full. Karen Lady's daughter, Jessica, sat with her husband. They'd prepared victim impact statements. Years of grief and loss condensed into words they hoped would convey the devastation of losing their mother. Jessica, who'd lost her father when she was only 14 years old, took the stand with her husband.
My mom would not be a threat. I was with her every day. She was all I had. We were mother and daughter. We were also best friends. And she maybe babied me a little bit. She maybe took care of things that I should have learned. Yeah, so it's been kind of hard without her because that's my familiar. When I got the phone call, I didn't believe it. At first, I thought it was some sick prank call, and he thought so too. It did impact my life a lot, and it still does.
Judge Foster listened to the victim's impact statements. Then he delivered his ruling.
As we started, Ms. Cook was found guilty by a jury of her peers, and on December 12, 2025, this case has taken a long time to get to this point because of a series of issues with Ms. Cook's competency, both becoming incompetent and becoming competent again. On count one, second-degree murder, which with the aggravator becomes a punishable by life felony, I will sentence her to life in prison.
Life in prison. He stated this was one of the worst cases he'd seen. The evidence, the lies, the complete lack of remorse. He also made a specific observation about Cook's behavior. He stated for the record that he believed she was malingering, faking mental health symptoms to avoid responsibility.
Ms. Cook also refused to assist in trying to resuscitate, which again makes it a worse issue for us. I do believe that Ms. Cook is competent to stand trial. Ms. Cook has participated in her proceedings. She was assisting Mr. Borgen several times throughout the proceedings, even as she tried to demonstrate that she was not competent to proceed. I believe that was all an act, as I believe what happened today was an act as well. I believe Mr. Borges is correct that when she came out, she wanted to put on a show for the audience, which is also wrong and sad.
The courtroom disruptions, the sudden behavioral shifts. Judge Foster determined these were calculated actions rather than genuine symptoms. Cook never heard her own sentence. She was in a holding cell, removed from the proceedings she'd disrupted. Her defense attorney eventually had to go to jail to inform her of the life sentence, and to get her fingerprints for the final documentation. Amanda Cook is currently serving life in prison in a Florida correctional facility. Her case file remains open for potential appeals, though no formal appeals have been publicly filed as of January 2026.